Hello, it's Shawn from gamerswithjobs.com here, and welcome to Vampyr. Vampyr, perhaps. It has a Y in there, so maybe it's Vampyr. I'm not sure. And this is a Let's Play of this game, and I'm going to actually keep this as spoiler-free as I can because it is very heavy on the narrative focus. And I don't want to spoil any major plot stuff, or even really minor plot stuff to you, because I think there's a lot of joy in playing this game and unfurling the world as you go. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what the game is like to play, a sense of what it's all about and how it works, and to help you decide if this is something you want to give your hard-earned dollars to or not. So this is Vampyr. This is from Don't Nod Entertainment, which also did Life is Strange and Remember Me before that. And Devil May Cry. Am I remembering that right? Maybe. So this is definitely a sort of heady mix of Life is Strange, Remember Me, and some Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, if you're familiar with that old game back in the early aughts.
The flower's dying. It needs water.
It really does, and I have not found a way to give it water. It's very sad. So you play Dr. Reed. You were in the very, very, very opening seconds of the game. You discover that you've been turned into a vampire, and you are in 1918 London. This is just after World War I had ended, but there had been a Spanish flu the year before, and now there seems to be another epidemic, but we don't know what's causing it. So you're both having to reckon with the fact that you're a vampire now. And this is like a new thing. This isn't a world where vampires are like a known quantity. It's not trying to oh yeah, vampires and werewolves and everybody's used to that. Nah, this is like a real not sparkly vampire game. You only go out at night. You have to avoid daylight, which is not a problem because the game doesn't really put you in daylight situations, at least not that I've seen. And it just sort of gives you this world to walk around in, see if you can figure out what's causing the influenza, who turned you into a vampire and why. And then lots of little side quests and other things along the way. So there are, in terms of spoilers, not a whole lot, but this is Pembroke Hospital. This is the first place you're going to end up once you've started the game, and this is going to be where you're going to base out of. So looking just up here is a nice little quick entry into my room in the hospital. So this is where I get to stay and be a doctor and create medicine and, just kind of my home base. You got hideouts throughout the world. And you can make different cures, which you can give people, which helps you build a relationship with them, and it also makes their blood sweeter. So let's talk a little bit about being a vampire as we walk into the hospital here. So this is Pembroke Hospital. It is kind of a volunteer hospital, and it is, as you can see, with blood on the floor and stuff, not the most sanitary place in the world, but it is 1918, I suppose. And you're basically, what you're doing a lot in Vampyr is there's combat, hand-to-hand, using vampire powers combat against vampire hunters. And then there's also talking to people, uncovering mysteries, furthering the main plot, and all that fun stuff too. So as you can see, Pembroke is a pretty lovely and well-realized place. There's just tons of, there's just 1,000 little details. I could go on and on. It is just a lovely place to stroll through. This whole game is lovely to stroll through. I mean, it is very grimdark because everything happens at night, and there's an influenza, and there's not a lot of people out on the streets, and yet it is just such a fascinating place to cruise around in.
Good evening.
So you can pretty much
Good evening, Dr. Reed.
talk to anybody. So here's Nurse Pippa Hawkins. And so I've learned things about Pippa over time. And when you talk to people, usually there's going to be their lives in London, personal questions. And as you can see here, hint required. So you actually, as you're playing the game, you're going to learn things from other NPCs, from maybe notes that you find. You're going to learn things that are going to let you then understand more about the different people that you're dealing with. So you can just kind of
How long have you been a nurse?
Well, long enough to see that the epidemic is winning. And no matter how qualified you are, don't tell me you'll change that.
You'd be surprised what dedication can achieve, Nurse Hawkins. In medicine, sometimes we're just a test result away from a miracle.
Sorry, Doctor. I don't want to sound bitter, but I'm just too tired to give a pep talk like Nurse Brannigan.
So you can just talk to people, get to know them, and different people have small little subquests associated with them, different relationships with other people, and all of this is relevant because, so here's vampire vision, and then you can see what a vampire might see, which is Pippa Hawkins is just a body just full of blood. Look at that beautiful beating heart, just ready. And so you can see there's a red bar. That's 2400 XP, so she's healthy, and you need a mesmerize of 3 in order to feed on Pippa. And so you're mesmerized, that's sort of how they gate as you progress through the game. That's how they control which NPCs you can mesmerize and eat and which ones you can't. So that way, I guess, plot-sensitive characters aren't taken out of the game too soon. So Pippa there, like, you've got an experience bar. So let's look a little bit at how the game systems work and how experience works. So you can see at the top right-hand corner, it says 405 experience. You spend experience to upgrade abilities and do things like that. So let's take a quick peek here. Lots of screens, lots of stuff. I actually got to be careful on which screens I show you or how long I linger on them. So I'm actually, oh darn, I'm not gonna be able to show you the actual skill menu unless I go sit on a bed. But basically, so these are skills I've leveled up over time, spending that experience. Like I've got extra syringes I can carry, extra bullets, more blood capacity, big thirst. So when I bite, I do more damage when I bite, I get more blood when I bite enemies, and faster regeneration. So I've focused a lot on kind of combat stuff. I do have different vampire abilities that I'll show you how that stuff looks. And then there's also just a minor crafting system as well. So I've got all these different things I'm carrying. And then you can see I've actually leveled up my cudgel to level 3. So it's pretty powerful, and it does good stun damage too, which is great. So that experience bar is important because you're going to, in London, there's lots of vampires roaming around, or not vampires, sorry. There are like lesser vampires roaming around you have to fight. But there's also vampire hunters, and they all have levels. So I've left Pembroke. I'm out of the safe area of Pembroke. Now I'm just going into the open streets. So right now we're in the, and this map is all revealed to you the first time you look at it. So no real spoilers there. So right now we're in the hospital area. So as soon as we step out of there at night, all you got outside at night are vampire hunters because of that whole influenza thing running around. People are staying indoors. At least that's how they justify it. So these guys are going to want to fight me. And they are only level 16 and 17. They're green, right? So I'm level 18. So they're level below me. So you've got your basic attack. Oh, that guy with the cross is a thing where he drains stamina, which is annoying. Okay, so these guys are going to be easy. So here's a little vampire attack. Whoa, blood spear. Oh, he's hitting me and making me look bad in front of my friends. That's not cool. Let's see, what else can I do? I can switch to my sword and gun, shoot him. But as you can see, he's got those little icons there. So to the right of his health bar, the red thing means that mind-based powers aren't going to work well, and blood-based powers aren't going to work well. Which, lucky for me, means that melee attacks will be fairly effective, and same with like ranged gun attacks. So the strategy in Vampire, what they do, the combat is good enough. Like, it's good enough to serve its purpose and giving you like extra things to do. Almost lost my mic. Beyond just fighting dudes, or beyond just like running around talking to people and doing quests and stuff. Like, you've actually got battles and fights to do, and they're strategically interesting enough to keep you engaged pretty well. Sorry, I just gotta fix this mic. Thank you. Good. Like, to me, the combat's good enough. There's boss battles, and the bosses demand some different strategies, but it works pretty well. You can lock onto enemies, use different abilities. You can't actually go into a sneak mode per se, although I can turn invisible. Oh no, that one freezes him. Let's see what other powers you can do. So I've got the one that like freezes dudes in place. Oh, poison's not great. That hurts. You can heal yourself spending blood. That'll get your health back up. Also some banked blood. So there are weapons like the club weapon here. I switch over to that, and as you can see, it's pretty quick to switch. You can actually parry enemies who try and melee attack you. So I'm going to stun this guy, and now I'm going to grab him and fight him. So that's going to let me get my blood meter back up. and which in turn, as you can see, my health's going back up. It kind of stops though, so I can actually use an ability that drains some of my blood to get my health meter back to full. And you can take injuries that reduce your health permanently until you rest or until you spend some blood to repair it. So walking around the streets, you're generally going to get into combat. The other really interesting thing though in Vampyr is that you're going to run into a lot of like rooms and buildings and things that aren't necessarily tied to a main quest. They're just kind of there to discover and explore, and they're usually going to factor in maybe with other NPCs you might meet. Because one of the big things about Vampyr is like all these guys are just low level, but other areas and bosses are significantly higher level than I am. And it's not like EverQuest or like World of Warcraft. Like if I'm level 10 and I run into somebody who's level 15, I can probably still kill them, but it's going to take a little longer, it's going to take more resources, and it's going to be tougher. And then as I level up, they get a bit easier to take out. So that's where the push and pull comes in. So you remember when I talked about eating people? They really want you to be in a position where you're not sure. I want to be a good vampire. I don't want to eat people. I don't want to kill people just to live. I can drain people who try to kill me. I don't feel too bad about that. And I get a little bit of experience for stuff like combat. You get lots of experience for resolving quests and quest lines. And so that's primarily how I level up my character. But as I'm going on, the game keeps pushing me more and more. Like, this boss is really tough. And if you were leveled up more, so there's some skulls fighting some vampire. So this is like some factional fighting going on too. So it's like, this boss is really tough, and like you can't just go out on the streets and kill people. You don't get that much experience doing that. So at some point you're going to be left with the question: either I need to do a lot more side quests, kind of I put the giraffe for us.
This is despicable.
Totally despicable. I'm gonna bamf up here. So then you're left with making a decision. So this is actually a safe house here, but
it's locked
on the side. So it's like, do I go and eat people? And that way I'll get, as soon as you like take someone, mesmerize them, take them somewhere quiet and drain all their blood and kill them, you get a ton of experience. And that lets you level up, which makes you more survivable in combat and helps you progress in the game. Whereas if you don't eat people, you need to be basically a better player to some degree. Or just really make sure you're doing tons of side stuff and doing lots of side quests to keep your experience level going. I haven't had to eat anybody yet. This is 12 hours in, I've still done pretty good. But you can feel that pressure as you go, like, boy, it would sure be nice to just snack on someone real quick. So here's where that comes into play. There are NPCs, so I'll just show you this guy real quick. So Dr. Edgar Swansea, he is a pillar of this region, which is the Pembroke Hospital. These are all the NPCs in that Pembroke Hospital area that we started in, and they all have their own stories, their own hopes and desires. And what's wild is that, like here, let's look at Clay Cox. He's someone you meet very quickly. So the more you learn about Clay Cox, the sweeter his blood is, so the more experience you get. So you are rewarded by getting to know your victims really well, actually gives you more experience before you kill them. Kind of bananas. And even though Clay Cox hates me, he has no relationships, he's a total loner, nobody likes him, he doesn't even like me, and he's only a mesmerize of 1, which means he's super easy to mesmerize and kill. And he's got 1,000 experience. He's just 1,000 experience just wandering around that I could just go and eat anytime. And I don't want to, because I don't want to be that kind of vampire. But I'm hitting bosses right now. Like, there's a boss that I am not doing at this moment because, like, she kicks my ass. And I'm like, man, I got to do some more side stuff or I need to start eating people. So you actually, it's not like Bioshock. You actually start to feel the pressure of, do I want to eat people because I am a vampire, it's my nature, or not? And then the game, in terms of world building, does a really lovely job of slowly roping you into more and more detail. Like in the beginning, it's like you're a vampire, full stop. What does that mean? As you go along, it's like, well, actually, you're this type of vampire. And there's other types. And then there's all these different, there's vampire hunter factions. There's vampire, different factions within the vampire society. And you've got to like learn how to navigate all this stuff, and they do a really lovely job of rolling that all in very slowly for you. So you have a lot to discover as you go. So different regions have different pillars, they're gonna have different quests, and there is a main quest line that you're following through. And that main quest line is very much gonna depend on your actions, and that's where that Life is Strange stuff comes in. Choices you make are going to impact the world. Like if you impact the pillar of a community in some way, it's going to affect that community. As the community gets sick, you can actually have an impact on that community by giving out medicine and stuff, and that'll give you some experience, and it'll actually keep the community healthier, because communities can get to the point where they're hostile toward you. It is fairly interwoven into the game. It's also kind of gamey, and things progress every time, because you need to rest to use XP to actually level up, and then things progress every time you rest. So it's got this sort of constant, like, there is a constant pressure, and you're trying to get as much done as you can, pile up your XP as much as you can before you rest again, to level up, and then the world's going to progress a little bit too. So I'm like 12 hours in, and as you can see, I'm not really talking to a bunch of people. I don't want to. Like, I really don't want to reveal even small story stuff, because the acting, the voice acting is actually very strong. The writing's quite good. Don't let the first 5-10 minutes of the intro fool you. Like, the writing's actually quite nice. And the combat's like good enough. Like, I don't hate it. It's not God of War. I don't love it, but it's actually interesting, and tactically, at least, you've got to like change your tactics depending on who you're facing, and it's workable. But it's a lovely world to walk around in. There's lots of great stories and choices to make as you go. There's that push and pull of the RPG stuff of managing your experience and using different skills and figuring out what kind of build you want. There's talking to people. There's, like, what kind of vampire do you want to be? Maybe you want to be stalking the streets and just eating NPCs left and right, getting to know them just long enough so that you can kill them and get all their sweet experience. Because that, I can tell you, would definitely make the game easier, but it wouldn't necessarily make the story easier, and it wouldn't necessarily mean that things go well, that's for sure. So you've got to really like think about those things. It's a really interesting process. Like, I am digging the game. Like, I'm really digging it. It's a great world to be in. I'm such a sucker for that. And then just talking to all these people. You're going to talk to a lot of people a lot, so you got to be in the mood for that kind of thing, and that Mass Effect style wheel of choices. But there's a lot of neat stuff, and they don't hold your hand. They'll always give you a good indicator of where to go for the next main beat of the plot. But there's tons of side stuff. You're never going to talk to somebody. They're going to say, "Oi, I lost my dagger. Can you find it?" And then show you a mark on the map where you go get it. Like, they'll describe where it is, and you need to go find it. So they really want you to invest and be in the world. And the side stuff, it's like, see, I'm in an area now. See that big Y on my at the top? That's like the next major quest beat. That's the next main plot, because like I've already taken a run at this boss a few times. So I am so adverse to spoiling this game. I think it's just so great as a story and world to live in and to navigate. And some of the issues they tackle with the vampire, being a vampire, what that means, and talking to different people, different perspectives. I think it's all really cool. So this is Vampyr. It's out for Xbox One, PS4, and PC, and I think it's good. I think you should give it a serious look, because it's pretty dope. So there you go. That's my quick views on Vampyr. Hope you enjoyed that. You can check out more from us at gamerswithjobs.com. Go check out our forums, listen to the gamerswithjobs podcast, and I guess like, favorite, subscribe. I guess that's the thing people do with videos. So you can do that too. Thanks very much for watching, and we will catch you next time.